Okay, we're still having some technical difficulties with our microphones, but we're gonna go ahead and start the meeting anyway. And so you may see somebody running around poking on buttons and so forth, but we'll go ahead so we can get started. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. You have a roll call, please.
Brian Crawford.
Here.
Leonard Knapp,
Here.
Monty Magalago.
Here.
Eula Simeon,
Here.
Jared Ricky,
Here.
Lenore Feeney. Here. And Jason Henman.
Here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Indivisible. Item on the agenda is opportunity to address the commission on items on the agenda. I understand we've had no requests. Is that correct?
Not for items on the agenda.
That's what I'm saying, on the agenda.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Move on to the business items on the agenda. The first item for consideration is consideration of approval of the minutes for June the 9th of 2022. Do we have any motions?
So move, Mr. Chair. Second.
Moved and second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes have been approved. With
responsibility is held at each office troop location or section within the department. And sometimes the responsibilities for that and the functions may not be uniform. While all those schedules do come to my office and we maintain those schedules and make sure that any destruction orders are sent to our office, all that is forwarded to the Secretary of State's office to gain approval before any destruction orders are issued. So no records can or should be destroyed unless they receive approval from the Secretary of State and to make sure they are in compliance with the standing retention schedule and make sure they're not in conflict with any pending litigation holds that have been issued by the department. Currently, we're in the process of creating a records management section, which would ultimately handle all public records requests, retention schedules, and also litigation holds to make sure that documents are obtained, copies are preserved, and those electronic records and others are kept in their original format for future use in litigation. So we started this process in direction of Colonel Davis back in February, and we have are implementing a public platform called GovQA, which is used by a lot of state agencies, which is a forward-facing platform that the public can access via the internet and submit their public records claim. What's unique about this platform is it tracks all public records requests. So if there's one that has been issued and it is someone comes and issues and applies for an additional request that is similar to one that's been issued previously, they can immediately see that. It'll prompt them, say there is a existing public records request that has been issued. Would you like to review it? And they can see they can almost have their request satisfied immediately if it's something that's already been requested by another person. But this system would allow us to track all public records requests, litigation holds, retention schedules. So we're in the process of implementing that through OTS and GovQA, and also implementing a section that would be responsible to manage that, not only for state police, but also for all agencies within public safety services.
And as I understand, right now, there is an overall hold issued by Colonel Davis on the destruction of any records. And my understanding is before that hold is lifted, there will be a report to this commission advising us of the potential that that hold will be lifted. Is that your appreciation as well?
Yes, sir. That's my understanding. Right now, we have the last authorized destruction of records was in the last fiscal year. So we would have been coming up due to submit approval to the Secretary of State for any records that would fall in the retention schedule that would be eligible for destruction. That moratorium has halted that process. And so no records will be destroyed until we get to the point where the colonel has lifted that and that report has been provided to the commission.
That was, want to make sure we're all on the same page on that. All right,
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Any other commissioners? Thank you for your report. Item number 7 under the business items is oral argument and discussion regarding revised computer search terms to replace items number 4 and 5 of the appellant's request for subpoena duces tecum in the matter of Carl Cavalier, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police, docket number 21-257-S. Would the parties please identify themselves?
Yes, I'm Attorney Gail Holland, Deputy General Counsel for Louisiana State Police.
Tunde Ali Mashaun on behalf of the state.
Good morning, Commission. Brett Conrad on behalf of Mr. Carl Cavalier. Mr. Cavalier is present, seated next to me.
Good morning. This is your subpoena, so why don't you speak first?
Yes, yes, we have tried to work with the appellant and narrowing the search as this board and commission ordered us to at the June 9th hearing. We had 2 conference calls with Ms. Lenore, and basically we're at an impasse. We know that we have done everything within our powers to try to work this particular issue out. We did other searches at the request of the appellant. We did one search on Tucson Louverture, which we promptly gave them all of the information. that the search revealed after a conference call with Ms. Lenore. We had another call with Ms. Lenore where she admonished us to come to an agreement. And along with the appellate, we agreed to do a search on retired Colonel Kevin Reeves' email, which we did, and we turned the information over to them. We were unable to do a text message search as their subpoena had requested because I'm not a tech person, but my understanding after speaking with OTS and what they relayed to me from the telephone carrier. Back in the day, you would be able to subpoena and get a search. That's no longer available because those records are destroyed within 24 hours or 48 hours. And the reason being is now you have to get a search warrant from a judge and you have to more or less like a wiretap, get it in real time. The search that they are asking us to do, we were unable to do. So what we did is we contacted the troopers that are still present with our department and asked them if they could go through their phones and screenshot anything that they had relating to.
Can I interrupt you real quick? Because I want to make sure I understand.
Mhm.
So is it the position of the department that it is physically impossible to do the search because those records, not at the direction of the department, but by the phone carrier, has been destroyed?
Yes,
I just want to make sure I fully understood that. Okay.
yeah, you have to get a wiretap from a judge in order for them to interrupt it in real time. They would have to
It has
catch
to be
it.
contemporaneous. with
Yes.
it.
Yes,
So it's just too late at this point.
yes,
And the department had nothing to do with the destruction of those messages.
no,
Okay.
not at all. Okay, and so we have turned over. Oh, yeah, we cannot provide any text messages for Lieutenant Colonel Oliphant, Major Jason Turner, and the governor and retired Colonel Kevin Reed, because we have no way of compelling them to give us anything. They're no longer employed with state police.
Now, when they, and obviously some of those people are not even with state police, but the ones who were with state police, when they were employed, were those private cell phones or those cell phones owned by the state police?
I don't know. I'm sure Mr. Oliphant, because he was in command staff, but I cannot
Reeves,
speak to
yeah.
that. And Kevin Reeves, he told the board that his phone was destroyed. So we did what we could to try to satisfy the text message search. We have not heard from them. We did deliver it over to them.
Let me, are y'all satisfied with the response relative to text messages, not relative to the email issue?
As to the text messages, not necessarily, because the issue with respect to the text messages was we had a status conference with respect to Mrs. Feeney, and there were no mention of text messages. When we had the order a couple of weeks later to submit briefs was the first time that we had learned that there had been this text message search and there had been this text message conducted and that they had the records, but they hadn't produced it to us yet, even though they're obligated under the subpoena. We filed a reply to this commission pointing that out. A couple of days later, we did get the subpoena return. The problem is that amongst this subpoena return are text messages that Mr. Cavalier produced over to the appellee
Well,
with
let me clarify my question. I understand there might be some debate about the content, but are you satisfied with the explanation as to why they could not do a search of the text messages?
I have no reason to dispute that. I don't have any evidence otherwise.
All right, so then we can put that issue aside. So let's focus more on the issue related to the email searches.
We did an email search. After speaking with Ms. Lenore, she asked if we could reach an agreement. Ms. Kraft asked me to speak with our IT people, which I did. And we could not agree on how to do the search. And the reason is She's asking that we make sure there aren't any duplicates. We spoke to our IT person who spoke with OTS. They said, as far as duplicates are concerned, they do not have a device to separate the duplicates out. But I could speak with Ms. Denicola at the Division of Administration, which I did. And she informed me that they have one attorney that can do this search, but it wasn't efficient, that we would still have to comb through the emails. And that the reason is when you are searching multiple emails at one time, you will get duplicates because all of these emails have the same.
They meet the search criteria.
Yes. So our IT person suggested to us, if you search one email instead of multiple emails, you will get a more manageable search. And that's the reason we said Kevin Reeves, because he was there a shorter period of time. He, Mr. Cavalier wanted it from 2017 where he began. All the other command staff are still here. So it was a longer amount of time. So we did, Mr. Reeves. It yielded 37 emails. But once those 37 emails were delivered to us, it comes in a link from OTS. And our IT person has to come in to my office, download it into a Microsoft on my computer. It's not a link where we can go in and separate. We have to print them all out, each email, each attachment. Then we have to go through, prepare a privilege log. And we have to scan back in the documents into a PDF, which in most cases it takes several different PDFs because you can only put so many pages in each PDF. Then someone on our staff has to go through and redact it because we are dealing with confidential and sensitive information. It's not that we are trying not to provide the information. The thing is, if, say, for instance, it was an investigation where it was an aggravated rape upon a juvenile, if that information gets out, then we as the custodian of those records will be then sued again. So the reason we have to be so careful with our records is that there are operational procedures that's in some of those attachments. We have procedures for certain Mardi Gras plans, other people, investigations that may not have led to a discipline.
We kind of, I think we're getting into a different issue right now as to
Okay,
the scope of the work that you need to do. And I don't think anybody would dispute the fact that there might be confidential information that needs to be redacted, but I want to try to focus our discussions right now. Let's focus on this question of duplicates. Why is it that y'all don't want duplicate emails?
Well, I believe based on the testimony from Mr. Williams, last meeting, and based on the questioning from the commissioners and based off his answers, that consists of a majority of these documents that they say is overly broad. Remember, right now, LSP has had since April 4th, all of the responsive documents in a PST file. It's an electronic file that they can go in and they can look electronically. Based on the answers from Mr. Williams at the last meeting, in response to Mr. Knapp's, I think, specific questions, it was related to, well, look, there's a majority of those documents that are duplicates, the forwards, right? That was the question.
Was there testimony that a majority were duplicates, or was there testimony that it comprised duplicate documents because of different?
A significant amount of the documents.
All right,
And
let's-
so,
let's keep it
Sure.
where it is.
yes, sir. So while we had those discussions specifically with Mrs. Feeney in the status conference, the recommendation from our side was, well, let's see if we can exclude the duplicates. If we can exclude the duplicates, then we will have a number of the exact emails that we're talking about. Then there was the further recommendation by me, which was, once we found out that they could exclude the duplicates in the second status conference through what she identified as called a Sumatra program, which was the first that I had heard of it, but she had confirmed to us in that status conference, yes, we could separate the duplicates out because we had in the return for Mr. Reeves's emails, she had identified, or LSP had identified, that there were 3 forwards that we had removed. So during that status conference said, well, great, if we can remove the duplicates, and you're saying that it's more manageable.
Let me, okay, how did y'all remove the duplicates from Mr. Reeves' production? Was it automated or was that manually done?
Manually done.
That's the problem. You see, we got to make sure we're all on the same page, and we're wasting a lot of commission time, I'm sorry to say, going over stuff that y'all should have talked about already, right? That was a manual removal of duplicates. So it's not as easy as it sounds. So your reason for not wanting duplicates was to try to narrow the number of pages so that it might make it more manageable for them to go through.
Precisely. And that was, I believe that was our instruction, was to see if we could limit production. And so from the very get-go, and we identified then on our briefs, was we had numerous emails back to LSP that said, look, let's see if we can remove the duplicates. If you can't, let us know the options. We never got a response. The only response we ever got was when we had the initial status conference with Ms. Feeney, where it was agreed that we would try to remove the duplicates for one mailbox, which she's correct, Mr. Reeves. We picked Mr. Reeves because we said, well, that's probably going to yield the least results. It might be the most manageable. And then that's when we had the second status conference where LSP identified, yep, it worked. We could remove the duplicates. And so I suggested, well, why don't we at least run the search through the Sumatra program for all of the mailboxes, come back and tell us how many documents are associated with those. And then we could intelligently discuss how many documents are we talking about, what needs to be removed. Obviously, it won't consist with any forwards, and have a more intelligent.
But as I understood what was said earlier, and we need to make sure we all understand the facts. What I understand what was said earlier was the reason there were some duplicates removed is because they only searched one box as opposed to searching multiple boxes. It's not because it's some magical program that removes duplicates. Did I misunderstand?
You're absolutely right.
correct.
And I never heard the term Sumatra.
What I don't want to get into that. I just want to make sure we know what's going on. So it's not like there is a program that can automatically do that. It's when you search multiple boxes, you're going to get duplicates, because when I send an email and somebody else receives it, it's going to be in my box and it's going to be in their box. If it meets the search terms, it's going to create a duplicate. And once you get past that, as I also understand, they would then have to be manually removed. So I don't know that there's a way of solving the problem. If I'm missing something, somebody please tell me.
I think part of our argument is that this should have started from the get-go. And if my suggestion was taken up.
For not having started from the get-go. So nobody disagrees with that, but now we got to solve the problem that we have, right?
And so if my suggestion was taken up, which was at least run the search and identify for us the number of responsive documents to each email, perhaps we can then have that second step discussion, which is, well, there's however many emails for Mr. Davis's email. There's however many emails for Mr. Kammen's emails. We could then have that discussion, but we're not even there yet because LSP has not provided that information to us. The only information that they provided is there's these 7 point whatever kilobytes.
So right now, what you're asking is them to do for everybody else what they did for Colonel Reeves' spot.
Yes, sir. I think that would help us get along.
Yes. Is there a problem with that?
Yes.
What is the problem with that?
Well, one thing is, in order for that to happen, we have to, as I said, go back to OTS, get the searches ran. They have to come over. They have to send it to our IT. They have to come over. They have to download it. They have to, we would have to, it would take days.
I'm less
in
concerned
order for
about
us to
that.
do it.
But my real concern is it's not going to solve the problem. My real concern is not going to solve the problem, because if you search each box individually, you're still going to have all the same duplicates. You're just going to have it in different searches. You're just dividing them up. So it doesn't,
Yeah.
That's the real problem, okay? I'm not concerned that there's trouble that they have to come to your office. That's not my concern. My concern is it's not going to solve the problem. So we're spinning our wheels right now. That solution won't solve the problem. You're still gonna get all the same emails, even if you search each box individually, you're just gonna have them in however many different batches.
But if the representation is made that it's more manageable, we could at least identify and say, well, why don't we take this mailbox and we can exclude the duplicates? You can identify what duplicates there are.
It won't be duplicates. What it will be is forwards.
Forwards, however you want to phrase it, but the gist of it is that based on the testimony, the duplicates, the forwards consist of some of those documents, and that removal of those documents would narrow and limit the production to make it more manageable. We don't know the answer yet to that because LSP has not told us that information yet. They haven't done so in the 3 months that they've been sitting on this document. The bigger issue that we then figured out during the status conference was that of the documents that we were provided initially, and we identified this in brief because I don't think it was made clear to the commission at the earlier meetings, was that one of the initial limited search occurred in on May 26th. Ms. Kraft had sent over a limited search that said, look, I'm going to narrow it down from January 1, 2017 through present with these search terms, specific terms. Please search all mailboxes. It was a test because we were going to use it at the commission hearing at the last meeting. When we got the return back, Ms. Kraft introduced it. It's in the record. It's the email that's in correspondence dated May 27, 2022. It's attached to my brief, and it says, here's all the emails for Toussaint. It says, here's all the emails responsive to your request, but what's actually attached is only Toussaint Louverture emails. When we had the status conference, and as now Ms. Holland made clear today, she told us, well, we only searched Toussaint Louverture's emails. However, in the prior representations made to both us and the commission, LSP had said that these were the only responsive documents to those search terms. And so when we found that out during the status conference, we were kind of taken aback and said, wait, hold on. I thought that we had all responsive documents to our limited search from January 1, 2017 through present for these search terms under all mailboxes. And that's just not true. And so this notion that LSP and us have been working in good faith, we have, but unfortunately just LSP hasn't been. And so we're in a situation now where I agree with you, Mr. Simeon, that we're sure these people coming over and they're going to separate things out may not necessarily solve the problem, but at least it's a start. Is it a start to solve the problem to figure out how can we get these records over? Yes, sir.
That there was a mischaracterization of what was provided. And
Okay.
let's limit the discussion right now to that. Like, we've got to break this down. It's the only way we're going to get it.
Yes, sir.
It is my understanding from our IT, the only mailbox they searched was Louis Vuitton, but they searched Louis Vuitton's mailbox for all of the terms. So if Louis Vuitton mentioned anybody on the term, Lieutenant Colonel J. Oliphant, Draper Crank, any of those names that, let me see the search. They had the connecting terms. Those terms will show up. The same with the search that we got on Reeves. They search for all of the terms. So if any of those terms would have come up, it would grab it in the search. No, they did not do the search on the
What-
combined. emails.
Okay, we now, I think, all understand how it was done. The question is, was there a misrepresentation of the search? Can you tell us what you said and at the time you turned it over?
Okay, the search on Tucson, Mr. Tunde handled. The search on Kevin Reeves, I was present. Ms. Lenore was on the phone when we agreed to
I'm more
do.
just interested in the representations that were made.
Yes.
when you turned it over. I don't need the details.
Okay, the representation is, this is the email that we searched. And you can tell from the documents that we turned over, there was no privilege log with it. That Tucson's email was searched. Every email that's there is Tucson. And it has Colonel Davis, Colonel Reeves, everybody that was mentioned is all mentioned. She turned it over to you guys. You can see the contents. We did not do a privilege log on any of that. All of it was turned over.
Mr. Simeon, the original search request was made on May 26, 2022 by email by Ms. Kraft. It said try search terms, Carl Cavalier, Toussaint Louverture, email address, toussaintlouverture@gmail.com, NWB, N-word with a badge, Ronald Green plus excessive force, assault, battery, murder, Carl Cavalier, Carl Cavalier or Cavalier plus leak, and then it listed several more terms, Elijah Steele. And then there was a question in terms of, is there a limitation to time? And Ms. Kraft said, yes, sure, I don't think you need one, but why don't we put one on there, January 1, 2017 through present, since this is a test run strictly for the purposes of the last commission hearing, and that we're reserving our rights as to the remainder of the subpoena. What we got back was the email that was introduced into the record today and was attached to the brief that we filed, which was May 27th, in response to requests for supplemental subpoena terms vis-a-vis, and she lists those same, and LSP lists those same terms. The problem
So
was,
your contention is you wanted that search done in all of the boxes. They did the search only in one box.
and we
And
understand,
and whether it was intentional or unintentional, you misunderstood when you got that production that was a search of all the boxes.
I respectfully disagree that it was a misunderstanding. It was a
I
representation
said
made.
You had the understanding.
Yes,
that it
sir.
was there. Where you got it from, I'm not interested in right now.
Yes,
That
sir.
was your understanding.
Yes, sir.
Question. Can y'all do that search in all of the boxes and see how many records it generates?
Yes. Yes.
Y'all have any objection to doing that search in all of the boxes and seeing how many records it turns out?
I do, because I believe that we are spending unnecessary time. And
Yeah, I
Man,
believe we're
Paul.
spending a lot of unnecessary time right now.
exactly, because our IT person, and I asked this question before, they said, if they tell you what it is you're looking for, a scope, what is it that you're looking for? We can put together search terms to find that if it's there. They said, no, we're not telling you what it is we're looking for. So if it's something they know that we have, tell us what it is and we'll see if we have it.
But you're familiar with the notion that an attorney's mental processes are not discoverable and they don't want to disclose their strategy to you. I mean, right?
I understand that, but
The other
we're
issue is-
trying to,
I'm asking questions of her right now. Just give me a second.
we're trying to narrow the search. In our opinion, we believe that the relevant time period will be from when Colonel Davis began his tenure to the time he made the decision, the final decision to suspend Mr. Cavalier. We're saying narrow the date so that we can get a manageable search.
But you haven't done the search of all the boxes for those terms to tell us how many documents that were produced.
No, we have the massive search.
I would entertain a motion to require the department to do that.
Move.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in
Let's-
favor?
Let's make, kind of catch up with you about what we're asking the department to do exactly.
Would you read the list? You want to hear the list?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, in other words, so it'd be, well, let me understand, see if I understand. It's in each individual name, and there are what, 10? 1, 2. Ten or 11 individuals. We're going to run a search in each of those names for the period of time from what are the dates? January 17th. 2017 through the present.
Can I respond?
What's that?
Why?
Well, I don't imagine through the president, it should be up to the time of the decision, I would think.
Yeah, that was 20.
The initial search that was requested and what was performed on May 27th, the time frame was January 1, 2017 through present.
Well, things after the decision, I don't see where those would be relevant.
And the issue is,
Give us some reason why.
well, based off of our theory of the case, and as we've presented thus far, is that that Mr. Cavalier was disciplined arbitrary and capriciously, that it was, but not based on merit, because it was not based on a policy violation, was based on the animus against Mr. Cavalier for his protected activity. And so the discipline and that animus did not end with the suspension. It continued through, at least as to the
But
termination.
evidence as to whether it was caused by that animus, whether the discipline was caused by that animus would have been present, would end at that point. wouldn't it?
And it could have continued through to his termination.
Well, we're not worried, we're not dealing with his termination in this hearing.
I understand that, but the animus may be demonstrated through that period of time because the employment action continued to be taken, such as from like a harassment standpoint. It's not a discrete act, it's a series of actions taken that demonstrate that animus
When
against
was
them.
his
What was
termination?
termination?
Yeah, thank you. When was his termination?
You know,
November,
The final determination was end of January of this year.
January 31st then of 2022.
Talking about the last-
We're talking
very
about a
last-
5-year
Yeah, January 31, 2021 would be.
of 2021.
2021. Oh, excuse me, 2022. I apologize.
22.
I misspoke, 2022.
And so that we're all on the same page, I did not hear the motion as including a requirement that those documents be turned over. The motion was to do the search so that we could evaluate how cumbersome it would be, or whether it is manageable to go through. That's what the motion is, okay? Just want to make sure we don't misunderstand what the motion would be.
Okay, for each one of those terms, but by the name of the individual.
No, search all of the boxes that have references to those individuals or those terms.
Would it be helpful if I read it entirely for the commission right now?
you want us to run a separate search?
Information property.
So let me just ask a question. So when the appointing authority provided information to this body about how voluminous this request was, how many pages, how many terabytes it would consume, how did they derive that? It seems like we're asking for the same thing now. Maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like we're asking you to go back and basically tell us what you've already told us. So I just want to be clear on what you provided us before and how you came to that conclusion as opposed to what we're asking for now. So,
Was it not a change in the search terms?
There was a change in the.
That was a
search.
change in the search.
right, but I just want some distinguishment on what the changes were and if they're significant enough to really demonstrate a significant change over the millions of pages that would be provided before, narrowing the search terms down to what they are now. Are we still expecting the
I
same?
think if we run the same search terms on each individual
Right.
with the same amount of years, we're gonna get the same
We're gonna come
amount
up
of
with the same
documents.
results. And that's my
because-
point.
Yes. So that's why I'm asking, can we shorten the terms for what I believe is relevant, and that's Colonel Davis tender to the suspension? And if, that would be from October the 30th of 2020 to, I think it's November of 21. I'm not sure the exact date, but
So November of 21 until the termination.
not the termination, the suspension from
Okay.
October the 30th of 2020, when Colonel Davis became the colonel, to November, I have to pull the exact date of
That's
of
okay. November of.
2021,
21.
when the suspension, the final suspension was served on.
So
Mr.
that's
Evans.
basically a year,
Yes.
13 months.
Yes.
So if we took the year that you're describing and we ran a search in the boxes that are listed by the appellant and then run those search terms, do you think that that's something that's manageable?
I don't. I believe if we chose one mailbox, just say we chose Colonel Davis's mailbox.
Okay.
And put in all of the terms. If Colonel Davis spoke to anybody concerning Car Cavalier, NWB, all those terms, those emails would come up, but we won't have to worry about duplicates because we're searching one mailbox, but the terms will still be caught.
Right.
I think that may make for a more manageable, relevant search than just putting us on a fishing expedition and we having an unmanageable amount of emails that 3.5 million.
So I'm trying to follow you here. So we're talking about when Colonel Reeves was colonel, correct? Is that,
No, when
No,
Colonel
sorry.
Davis took over,
Davis.
because Colonel Davis is the one who made the decision. in the
okay, and Colonel
suspension.
Davis took over when?
October the 30th of 2020.
Okay, gotcha. Until, okay, you're saying November of 21. Okay,
And that's when the final suspension.
I got you. So, and I think what you're trying to say is if I send an email to somebody or a group of people, possibly someone on the list, they respond to that email to everybody on the list. They hit every box. So those are the duplicates I think that we're talking about. As somebody responds, whoever responds, it's not necessarily a duplicate because it's an enhanced duplicate because now you have additional information on that email that was not there at the beginning of the email string. So you almost have to hit the end of that email string to make sure that you've got everybody on there, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If I may,
I mean,
Is it the department's position that the only relevant emails would be the ones in Colonel Davis's box?
and that was.
With those
that was gonna be my
terms,
next
so if,
question. No, that's okay.
with those terms, so just say for instance, if IA sent the colonel email regarding Mr. Cavalier, it would come up in the search because it has one of those terms in it.
I understand, but is it also the department's position that the only animus that would be relevant animus would be that of Colonel Davis? Or would
Yes, but-
or would the animus of others that led to the decision unbeknownst to Colonel Davis, is the department's position that would not be relevant?
It would not be relevant because Colonel Davis made the decision.
But if Colonel Davis made the decision based on faulty information provided by other individuals who had animus, is the department's position that's not relevant?
It is relevant, but it would be
Then how will we find that other relevant information by simply searching Colonel Davis's email?
because if we put the name Car Cavalier,
Colonel
NWB,
Davis is out of the loop on these emails going back and forth about this animus. And he doesn't get the email because they know he won't, let me finish my question. They know he won't put up with that. How will searching his box disclose that information?
then I would say it's not relevant because the colonel didn't take that under
But
consideration.
if he relied on these other people, the colonel's not there for everything. He has to rely on other people to provide him information. I think you've already conceded that if other people had animus and they provided bad information to the colonel, not necessarily the evidence that proves the animus, but they gave him bad information, that would be relevant, right?
But it would be in the email.
The bad information would be in the email, but the evidence of the animus would not be in the email.
How we gonna find the animus in the email?
Because he could send me an email that says, I hate that so-and-so because of this, right? And not tell Colonel Davis anything about it. And I'm gonna tell Colonel Davis this, so he gets rid of that SOB. That's how we can.
But we don't, I still don't see how, if we don't have the name of the person, we still won't be able to get that person original email. So say for instance, if we have an unknown, they don't know the person. We just heard some people may have said some things. we won't be able to search that name or that term either. She needs to tell us who it is, email that you believe may have said some stuff, and then we can go and look for that. It'll be narrow. Hey, we believe so-and-so, whatever the name of the person is, may have said some horrible things about Car Cavalier. Once we put Car Cavalier name in there and the two people that you believe were talking, it's gonna catch it.
Commissioner Crawford.
Okay. So, and I understand the chairman's line of questioning.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily found in an email. But if you have conversations that are going back and forth between two officers that are not Colonel Davis,
Okay.
that manifest themselves into an email, they take that email conversation, they turn it into a face-to-face conversation with Colonel Davis, and that's not in Colonel Davis's box. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, my thing is, Colonel Davis will be here for the hearing.
I
If
understand
they
that.
believe that, they can ask that to Colonel Davis himself. That's best evidence.
So let me ask you one final question. If we narrowed the scope from October the 30th, 2020 to November of 2021, when was Mr. Cavalier suspended?
In November of 2021, that was when he received his.
If we
final.
narrowed the scope to that 1 year, those 13 months with the individuals that have been provided to you with a narrowed scope of what to search for, is that something that is manageable?
I believe, I don't know until we get the number back, but
I understand.
I believe this would, the time period would help to narrow it, but it would also help to narrow it if two things could happen. One, they could tell us which mailbox they want us to search, and if they believe that there was a conversation out there between two people, whatever, we could possibly get our IT to create a search to search for that. If I may say one more
One
thing.
Related to the question that was asked.
Yes. Okay. On the 26th, Ms. Jill sent some search terms.
26th of this.
May
I'm sorry,
26th. It
26th
was
is what hadn't
Tucson,
happened yet.
NWB, nigga with a badge, Ronald Green, plus excessive force, assault, battery, murder, car cavalier. Secondary employment, cover up, pseudo name, pseudo anonymous Elijah Steele, press, media, discrimination, video, Elijah Steele. I believe if we take those terms that she sent on May 26th and shorten the time period from the 2017 to the October 20th, 2020, and run this through mailbox that she believes is relevant, I believe that would be.
That would include every box that we have listed here. So from superintendent to all the troopers that are listed.
I don't know if we will be able to go through them, but we will be able to give them the numbers.
And that was the, other than the date that you want to limit it to, that was the original motion. Okay, so the question is,
It was the limited terms. It was just to tell us the number.
right,
The only
Okay.
thing, the only difference is, I think they have the right to go back to 17 if that's what they're asking.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
we're not asking them to print the documents. We're not asking them to, we're asking
Okay.
simply
Run the
for
search.
a number.
And tell
Run
us
the
the number.
search in all the boxes of the limited terms and come back and tell us the number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same as the original search with all the 630 and megabytes and all that. That's different. This is a limited, that had assault and battery. That had a bunch of terms that are different than that. That's what my motion is. So we're already in agreement, other than the timeline.
Okay.
And I have a problem limiting their timeline. If
Okay,
they
so,
wanted to say 2017, at least you can come back and tell us how many, and then we can have this argument about more limits.
Could we have a
Sure.
time?
let's recognize Ms. Feeney.
There's one issue about this search and coming back and talking about it. This case is scheduled for hearing in 2 weeks. So in making these motions, we need to keep in mind whether we need to change this hearing date or address the issue that's going to come up, because there's not going to be time for them to come back before the commission if that search term is a problem.
Well, yeah,
And there are other issues related to the hearing.
but I'd like them to do it and get with you and let you know. And maybe there's also, I mean, I understand the terms are acceptable to the department. It's just an issue of the dates. Although these terms probably could be refined a little bit better than they are. Have some
you talking
connectors.
about from the original
I'm
or
talking
from the
about the
May?
May 26th.
May
Okay.
26th.
Oh, May 26th.
I will.
We're all on talking about that date right now.
Yeah.
But even those terms maybe could be refined a little bit better if there were some connectors between some of
Yes.
these terms. But right now, I heard you say you're fine with the terms, you just objecting to the date. I tend to agree with Commissioner Rickey that
Okay.
the longer period is a more relevant time period, but y'all can run it.
Okay.
Give Ms. Feeney the information that she needs.
Okay.
She's gonna ultimately be the one that's gonna work on this production anyway. We're not gonna sit here as 7 commissioners and work on this production. But y'all have got to work with Ms. Feeney more directly and closer and try to get this issue resolved.
I
We
will.
can't resolve this issue in a group. So the only question is the question of dates. Any other discussion on the date issue right now?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I would support Commissioner Ricky's motion. And I would just ask that the dates of October 30th to in 2020 to November of 2021 be pulled out. I want to know exactly how many are in that time frame.
That's
So-
another search.
We'll do it.
No, it's
do a
not.
second search.
No, you're already doing the search for the entire 2017 to present. I just want to know of that number, how many are in this 1 year period?
This is what I need you guys to understand. Our management system at LSP is primitive. So we have to send each one of these searches to our IT, who would get with OTS. OTS will run each one of those searches and send a link. That link has to be downloaded or it disappears. OTS does not house that. It costs money to house a search. So we would have to run each one of those searches, have each one of those searches downloaded, and then get the count. It won't tell us how many is in there from this year to this. It's all different searches, it's all different links that have to be managed before we can do anything with it.
So Commissioner Riquet, would you accept the friendly amendment to your motion that they run 2 searches?
Absolutely.
2 searches on each box.
With the date,
With the
one with the date limitation that was proposed by the department and one with the broader date.
Can we just state for the record the dates, starting
Yeah.
end dates?
Yeah.
So that, because there's going to be,
It's gonna be 20 different searches.
so one of them will
I think
be
we talked about 2 searches.
January 1 of 2017 to November of 21 or to the present?
Not to the present, I wouldn't think. I would think to the time of decision.
The decision of the suspension.
It is November 2021.
Okay, so November 2021. So
Well-
that's one search. And then another will be within that, from October the 30th of 2020 to November of 21. Is that correct?
Our original request and what I understood LSP conceded was that they were willing to do the January 1, 2017 through present. That's then when we get into the inquiries from Mr. Simeon, where you said, well, Brett, where are you coming up with the animus and that can it manifest after the suspension? I said, well, absolutely it could. It could manifest after the suspension was taken because the animus continued against him up until he was terminated.
But, and actually, my proposed date was determination.
Termination date.
Termination date. Okay, so,
not
so
suspension date.
So whatever that date is, which we have in the record, but the initial search will be January 1, 2017 through the termination date,
January
second-
22.
January
January
2022.
31st, 2022. correct?
And then the second search will be from October 30th of 2020 to January,
No, November.
to November of 2021.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And get us the numbers.
But two
And
search,
you don't have to search the boxes individually.
search the whole.
You search the whole thing because searching individually is not going to solve the duplication problem. You still, so just search. So that's why it's two searches.
If I may just made a point of clarification, just to make sure everybody understands, Mr. Cavalier and our firm are not expecting LSP to print out all these pages and say, here you go. We're willing to come look at them in person. We're willing them to get them on electronic copy. I told Ms. Feeney that, I told them that during the office. I just want to make that point across
But
because I
it's not
don't think I
just-
said that today.
It's not just a point,
Yeah.
it's not just an issue of printing, it's an
Yeah.
issue of the manageability of being able to function and do what they need to do before they can turn them over to.
That's correct.
That's what the real issue is.
They have
It's
to
not a
read
matter of how
everyone,
many
they have to
pages.
didact the
Yes.
confidential information that's
So,
in there. It's incredibly
But
time.
we got to understand the number of
Right.
documents.
But let's get us the numbers.
Okay.
Get Ms. Feeney the numbers.
We didn't really, we have a motion in a second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is there a due date when she has to?
How long is this gonna take?
No, we gotta do it. I say a week. Give us a week because we have to first get with our IT people so that they could get in touch with OTS. OTS has to run the search and then, well, let's say within. So I will contact them today. And how about I contact Ms. Feeney and let her know how long it's gonna take? Because they still have to, you understand? They're not gonna get a number.
We understand that. We
Yeah,
understand.
we're
Until the
gonna-
search is done, there won't be a number until it's downloaded.
Yeah.
We understand all that.
Okay, so I said within a week, but we will contact our IT as soon as we get back to the office and we will let Ms. Feeney know how long it would take.
It was my understanding that the last search took 3 days. The search request was April 1 and they got it on April 4.
So that's why I say within a week.
Within a week, but if
we're doing
possible,
two
but
this
if
time.
possible to do it quicker, get it done quicker.
Yes, yes.
You accept that amendment to your
Sure.
motion? All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And ask that the parties for this matter not leave. So we can have a conference with Ms. Feeney following the meeting. Yeah, let's. I think the rest of it's not gonna take very long. 'cause we're about to-
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Item number 8, under the business items, in the matter of Albert Paxton, Department of Public Safety and Corrections Officer, State Police, docket number 21258-RV, regarding whether attorney's fees should be awarded. Unfortunately, because one of our commissioners, there was only
4 of you.
4 of us who heard that matter. One of the 4 of us who heard the matter is not present today. So we cannot gather a quorum of the commission because only the commissioners who heard the matter can vote on the attorney fee issue. So we're going to have to pass that matter at this time. Consideration of a motion to go. No.
Yeah.
On the annual performance. Well, why don't we take a break before we before we do this,
Okay.
and then you can have the conference with
Council.
the other parties,
Okay,
the parties in regards to the Cavalier matter. So let's take a 10-minute break.
okay.
And before we do that, why don't we change the order of things? Unless, are you gonna stick around for our report on the executive director? Oh, that's fine. I was gonna change the order of the meeting. If you weren't gonna stick around for that, I was gonna let you make whatever comments you had before we did that. But if you're gonna stick around for that, we'll keep it in the same order.
Okay.
I was trying to be nice to you. We're rolling. Yes, everybody ready?
Where's Lenore? She was talking to them, but it's fine.
You ready, Jason?
Yes.
Okay. We'll call the meeting back to order. It is 10:37. Okay, at this time, we entertain a motion to go into executive session to conduct the annual performance review of the executive director.
Move.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Take a roll call vote.
And Crawford,
Yes.
Leonard Knapp,
Yes.
I can't say it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Jared Ricky,
Yes.
Euless Simeon.
Yes.
Okay, we're getting executive session now.
Chairman, we're good.
Ready? Call the meeting back to order. Have a motion to go back to the public session.
Move.
Second.
Second, take a roll call, please.
Brian Crawford.
Yes.
Leonard Knapp,
Yes.
Monty Montalongo,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Here.
and Eula
Yes.
Simmons, and Eula Simmons.
Yes. We're coming out of executive session. The next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021-20. Well, I was leading up to what we're about to,
All right. I'm sorry.
consideration of 2021-2022 performance evaluation of executive director. We'll have any public discussion and any motions.
I'd like to make a motion that we give Mr. Hanneman an overall rating of a 5, which is exceptional and outstanding, and grant the 2% performance adjustment. And as an aside, thank you for all the hard work. Thank you for some of the comments when you're even answering our text messages and our phone calls, when you're on vacation with your family, besides a general Tuesday night at 10 o'clock at night when we have questions. You do go above and beyond, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Speaking in support of the motion as chairman, I probably work closer with Mr. Hanneman than most, although everybody has direct access to him and he's always available. But he works very, very hard, very diligent. I've never called him. I don't care what time it is. Send him a text message. I don't care what time it is. He's always available and will respond. Sometimes I hear little children in the background, but that's okay. He's there and he's responding and open to answer my questions or give me his thoughts on where we are and what we need to do. Certainly would not be able to do this job without his assistance.
Second that motion.
All right. Been moved and seconded. And I would say probably by acclamation, we'll go ahead and approve it. Let's all in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. So now you better give us one dang director's report after all those comments.
Absolutely. But we go but down, right?
Thank you, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. I'll keep my director's report brief. I've included the monthly expenditure report of the commission. This is not reflective of the final summary of fiscal year 21-22. There are still a few items left, but as you can see, we have expended at this point, we've expended 97% of our allocation, and that number is going to go even higher because there's a few items that have not posted. Are there any questions regarding the monthly expenditures of the commission?
Sure.
Motion proper.
Yeah, and this is just also kind of patting Jason on the back, somebody who deals with budgets all the time, keeping a budget and keeping the underburn or the overburn. And that means not going over your budget and then spending your allocation as appropriate to manage your program or your services. You've done an exceptional job. Even with the report that you've provided us, you're just a little under 3% under your budget. That'll go up and that percentage will close. And so you're right on track in appropriately spending the dollars that the taxpayers and the legislature allocate for this body, and usually doing it on a shoestring budget. And so you and your staff are to be complimented for doing that and always just performing exceptionally, both when we do have our committee meetings in preparation and as the chairman and other members of this board have talked and discussed in the days and times in between that we reach out to you as commissioners or your staff reaches out to us and provides us with the information that we need to perform our duties when we sit here and make these important decisions. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. And I'll just add to that, have an exceptional team with Christy and Debbie to make sure that we are dotting all the i's and crossing all the t's. Which leads me to the next item in my director's report, which would be the legislative audit that we recently went through, the 2-year legislative audit, which was an excellent audit and resulted in 0 findings from the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. They did a very comprehensive, being that we're such a small agency, they really looked high and low. We had a new auditor that was new to the LLA, and she really, I think, cut her teeth with us. But we were able to provide every document she needed, and through that thorough review, there were no findings or recommendations. So, and other than to announce the notice of the next meeting, that concludes my director's report. I believe we're scheduled to meet on July 28th at 8 a.m.
Any questions for the executive director? Thanks, sir. Takes us to the next item on the agenda, and it's the opportunity to address the commission by employees or others on matters not on the agenda. We've had one request from Mr. Robert Burns, representing Sound of Louisiana. Mr. Burns, would you come forward? And though I've already called your name, identify yourself and proceed. Generally, we limit these comments to 5 minutes or less.
I won't be nearly that long.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I am Robert Burns with a video blog, Sound Off Louisiana, that most of you are probably familiar with. I'm not going to discuss the recent incident in trailing Colonel Davis because I think that's been widely disseminated, including in London newspapers, with plenty of commentary thereof. But I am going to comment on a quotation that he made after the incident because I take strong exception to it. And that is when he made the quote that when a trooper assesses the situation to be non-hostile, it's okay to turn off the body camera. I used several adjectives in a recent post to describe my feelings about that quote. I stand by every one of those adjectives, but I will state here that that is irresponsible. Every trooper I have talked with, both retired and current, said that would constitute a violation of policy. And it is just absolutely irresponsible. And I will say that I recently requested body cam footage from Sheriff Beckett Bro's office, who's a former trooper. And I got every one of them in every situation. It was non-combative, it was non-hostile. But I would have missed out on a ton, including quotations made by a current trooper, specifically Scott Lopez, if he'd had the prerogative to turn the body camera off. So I take strong exception to that quotation. I disagree with it emphatically, and I've got plenty of company in disagreeing with that. So I take the position that either Colonel Davis ought to come forward and publicly take that comment back, retract it, or in my opinion, he should be removed as Colonel of State Police, because that is the single most irresponsible act I've seen since I've been following state police. I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, with that, we have no other requests for comments. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes. Any opposed? The ayes have it.